The typical tarot deck, a hodgepodge of colors, symbols, figures. What does it all mean? Today, I'll be showing you my own method that I use to study every tarot deck, and you are going to develop your own intuitive interpretation of every single card in your deck. All you'll need is a pen or pencil. You'll need either index cards or just take regular paper, cut it up into quarters. You'll need 78 of them. Your study time begins now. Hello, my witchy and crafty friends. Welcome to my first video in my series of how to study and journal with your card deck. We're going to focus on tarot just because oracle decks, every oracle deck has its own system. Tarot has just 3 systems, and I'm going to go with the most popular, which is the Rider-Waite-Smith. That is the system the majority of us are familiar with. And also, in my opinion, it's the easiest to study because the pips, the minor arcana, are fully illustrated. Now, the number one thing you do is you arrange your deck in order. If you've already shuffled it, it's not brand new out of the box. The cards will be all mixed up. So you order them. Wands, cups, swords, pentacles, major arcana. And within those, they all have to be in numerological order. I can't talk today. So I will do that on fast forward so you don't have to watch the whole thing. And I just basically put the suits together just in a haphazard manner. So I've got wands, cups, swords already going, and the majors going. And I'm just kind of like trying to keep some semblance of an order together. And here we go with the rest of it. Now that you've had your deck organized with a stack of majors, wands, cups, swords, and pentacles, go through them again and be sure they are in the correct order. Trust me, there will be mistakes. I've been reading cards professionally since 1995. I began reading tarot in 1976. I still mess up. I made 2 mistakes in this, just so you know. Once you've gone through and you've made sure that the order's correct in each pile, you then are going to be working with the minor arcana first. So set the majors aside for now. And you're going to go through each deck. And now what you'll do is you will organize the cards according to their number. So you'll put all the aces together. Again, the suits will be in the same order. Wands, cups, swords, and pentacles. The only reason I am sticking to that order is because in the vast majority of tarot books, that is the order in which the suits are discussed. That applies to the majority of tarot decks as well. So you'll just start with the first pile, Ace of Wands, Ace of Cups, Ace of Swords, Ace of Pentacles. Set them aside in their own pile. Go through the 2s. So you got 2 of Wands, 2 of Cups, 2 of Swords, 2 of Pentacles. They go in their own pile. Be sure they're in the correct suit order. Again, Wands, Cups, Swords, and Pentacles. You do the same for the 3s, and you go on through the whole deck like this. So I'll be doing that, sped up, and then you can catch up with me, and we'll continue on with the rest. right, I've got all of them organized, all the minor arcana. So all the aces are together, the twos, the threes, and so on. I also alternated each set of numbers and court cards. So I have a neat little pile here. Now, this is now the third major step. You take one number, so you begin with the aces, and you lay out your 4 aces from left to right. Wands, cups, swords, and pentacles, and examine them for similarities. We are going to be looking for figures represented on the cards. If there are figures, what action are they performing? So, looking at this example here of the aces from the Light Seers Tarot, we have 2 female faces. We have 2 sets of hands. This is clearly a woman. This one most likely is a man based upon what the hands look like. So what does that make you feel? You look at your own emotions at this point. As you look to see what the figures on the cards are doing, this is going to be the #1 question you ask yourself about each set of cards. So for the aces, the twos, the threes, and so on. What do the actions of the figures on the cards make you think about or cause you to feel? What's your analytical response to the action depicted on the cards? What is your emotional response? Okay, you do that for all 4 aces, all 4 twos, and onward. Once you've done that, now we're just focusing on the aces, okay, for the example here. You can go through the whole deck and do that. Just looking at how the humans, or maybe animals, you could be using an animal deck, how the humans or the animals are depicted on the cards, what their action makes you feel or think about. You could go through the whole deck like doing just that, or you can go on to the next step with the aces and then combine the 2 steps for each numeric set of cards you look at. The next thing that we examine about each card is the color scheme. We've already looked to see how the characters on the cards are being depicted and what action they are carrying out, how that makes us think and feel. Now we're looking at the color scheme. The color scheme in any good tarot deck is going to vary greatly from suit to suit because each suit is ruled by a different element, and the elements are associated with different colors. That color is most likely going to be predominant in the suit. For instance, the suit of Wands is ruled by the element of fire. Colors associated with fire, orange and red. So bound to see a lot of orange and red. Just looking at this card, look, there's a flame right on her forehead. How much more obvious can you get that this is the suit of the element of fire? And so on. So you look at the color scheme for each of the aces, each of the twos, each of the threes, and on. And how does that make you feel? How do you respond to those particular combinations of colors? Do they make you feel happy, sad, confused? Maybe there's some colors on that card you really can't stand. It might make you feel disgusted. Note all that down. Write it down. Write down how you are responding to each ace. Then you go through and you do the same thing for the twos. You just set them out in front of you, all 4 of them, and you can put them right on top of your aces. This is then going to place each suit in backward numerical order, which is fine because after this we're going to look at the major arcana and do the same thing with the major arcana. So you just look at your twos, and again, you look at the representation of human figures or human body parts or animals. If you're using an animal tarot deck, there are plenty of really good ones out there. See, what are they doing? What's the action being carried out, and how does that action make you feel? How do you relate to it? Analytically and emotionally, note those down. Then you look at the color scheme for each card. Same thing. How do you respond to it analytically? How do you respond to it emotionally? Note that down. Even if you're indifferent, even if you're completely neutral, note that anyway. So, you can say like, okay, the Two of Wands card is predominantly oranges and yellows because, Wands is ruled by the element of fire. So you can say there's a lot of orange and yellow in this card. Orange and yellow makes me think of the sun, sunny day, heat, the summer. Write down a few associations you have with that color, with the color scheme of that card. Then go on to the cups. Your cup suit is probably going to be associated with the color blue because the suit of cups is ruled by the element of water. So again, what colors are dominant here? Well, we've got some blue down here. You got blue along the top, and then you've got a bit of a rainbow in between. And you also have hands clasping one another. And, obviously two different humans here. So you can, what are your associations with hand holding? Romance? Support? Write that down. Then you go on to the Two of Swords. And here we have a woman who's blindfolded. She's dressed in black. She's got these, I don't know if they're crows or ravens. I've never learned to tell the difference. Hope that doesn't make me a bad witch. But there you go. I believe in transparency. Anyway, they're kind of like tying her up with this thread, or they're pulling on her hair. It's not too clear here which it is. But what does this make you feel like? For me, it would make me feel like, I already know birds symbolize thoughts. So perhaps the conflicting birds up here, she's having conflicting thoughts about something. There's some sort of confusion going on. So I would think this card makes me feel confused, makes me feel mixed up. I don't know what direction I'm going in. Note those associations down, okay? In my next video, I'll talk about the types of journals you can use for this, because I've been journaling for years and years and years now, so I've got a ton of ideas about that, in case you don't have a journal. But for right now, just note it on a really good way to keep record of this, index cards. If you don't have index cards, just take your paper and cut it up into 3x5, or cut each sheet of paper 8.5 by 11 or A4 into quarters. There you go. Instant index cards for free. And then we go on to the Two of Pentacles. And here again, what is she doing? Well, she's standing there. She appears to be in some form of movement here because her skirt is billowing off to the side. So she might be dancing. She might be twirling. And she's got these two round objects here. It's not too clear what they are. This looks to be some sort of a purse. It's got a snap closure here. And this is something energetic. So it's not a physical object, but she's kind of balancing them. So I'm thinking here, okay, there's a lot of gray here. I don't like the color gray. So right there for me, and gray has negative connotation for me. Gray means mourning or maybe sickness. I would make note of that. Even though I know as a professional reader, that doesn't have anything to do with the meaning of the card. Still, I would make note of that. The reason is, the process I'm showing you how to do here is going to show you how you develop your own intuitive meanings for every card in your deck. You won't have to follow a guidebook anymore after this. You'll intuitively know what every card means, and you'll learn the tarot much better, and the readings that you give yourself, your friends, will be individual and specific to how you relate to your deck. They'll be much more intuitive, and you won't be dependent on anybody's book. That's what we're learning here today. So you do that for your twos, and you go through the threes, and you do the same thing. Lay them all out. Look at the action of the figures on the cards first, and then look at the color scheme of the cards. How do you respond to what the figures are doing? How do you respond to that particular color scheme? How does it make you feel? What does it make you think about? What associations does it bring up for you? You go through the entire minor arcana doing this, okay? And then you do the exact same thing for the major arcana. Now, the major arcana is numbered 0 to 22. So you don't have to lay out all 22 cards just because you're looking at the major arcana, and you don't want to intuitively overwhelm yourself. You know, there's only 22 cards here. The major arcana is also, in my opinion, the most important part of the tarot deck, because each of these cards represents universal spiritual forces that are at work in all of our lives. And they enter our lives at various times in order to help us to learn and master important spiritual and karmic lessons. So it's really important, if you want to really learn tarot, to develop a personal relationship with each one of the major arcana cards. So instead of going through them in sets, you go through them using the same process one by one. So for instance, you pull out the Fool card. Turn the rest of the majors face down so you're not tempted to look at the Magician, okay? You're just looking at the Fool card. And you do the same thing. Is there a figure on the card? If so, what's the figure doing? 9 times out of 10, it's about to step off or fall off of a cliff or some type of a ledge. That's the basic imagery of the Fool card. So you note that down. How does that make you feel? What's it make you think about? And what do you think of that person? Do you think they're an idiot because they're not watching where they're going? You know, note that stuff down on your slips of paper or your index cards, however you're keeping notes, until we learn about journals in the next video. And then you can get yourself a pretty nice looking journal and pretty inexpensive. I know all the best places. Anyway, you note that about the figure, and then you look at the color scheme. What does the color scheme make you think of? Does the color scheme match the color scheme of a particular suit? If it does, write that down. And if you'd like my little cheat sheet about the colors of the suits and all, subscribe to me over on Substack, my free newsletter there, and I will send you a PDF cheat sheet on this. So what you do is you look at the color scheme. We've got lots of blues here. I would associate it with the Suit of Cups just because of that, but we've got some yellow here. She's wearing a yellow dress. That's the Suit of Wands, fire. I would note that as well. And then we continue on. Oops, wrong direction. The Magician. Again, you look at the figure on the card. What is he doing? In most cases, he's going to have one finger pointed up to the sky and one finger pointed down to the ground. Or there could be a wand in one of his hands that's pointed either up or down. That summarizes the ancient magical axiom of as above, so below, meaning whatever occurs or manifests on the astral plane will manifest on the physical plane. Okay, so that explains the stance of the Magician on most tarot cards, in most decks. And then so you look at his action, you see what the figure is doing, and what does that make you think of? You know, how does it make you feel? Then you look at the colors, same thing. Do these colors make you think of any of the colors you saw in the suits? And if so, which one? And you write those down in your notes as well. And you just go through the entire major arcana and do that. Now, this is pretty heavy duty, all right? Most likely cannot do this in a day. And then once you're all done with that, you reassemble your deck in I can't say the word. Numerological? That's wrong too, but you know what I mean. In number order. So from 0 to 22 in the majors, and then you got to go through your minors and rearrange them into suits. You know, so it's 2, 3, there's the ace. You know, 3, 2, ace of cups, 3, 2, ace of pentacles, 3, 2, ace of swords, and on through the whole deck. And then the last stage of this part of getting to know your tarot deck and starting your tarot studies is beginning again with the minors. You just go through every card in the deck. Be sure you've got plenty of room in your index cards or your homemade index cards, or maybe a little spiral bound notebook you've got, whatever you're using to make your notes. Make sure you have plenty of room. You're going to go through each one then and just basically again ask yourself, how does this card make me feel? What does it make me think about? So you'll do that for all the wands, then you'll do it for all the cups, all the swords, and all the pentacles. And then you'll conclude, by going through the major arcana again. So you're going to be making your observations twice the first time you go through and study your tarot deck. And the reason I recommend that is because as you're introducing yourself to the colors, to the symbology, and the actions depicted on every tarot card in your deck, it's going to start to change your outlook on the tarot. It's going to start to change your view. Just because everyone's psyche is different. We're all at different levels of spiritual development. So the first time you go through your deck, you're going to have certain associations with the cards. The second time you go through your deck, those same associations will most likely still be there, but you'll have different ones start to come up. That's because your own psyche, your own intuition is starting to open up and tune in to the symbols on your tarot deck. And that's how you can gauge how well you're learning your deck over time. You go through and carry out this exercise every so often, and each time you do, you're going to notice more. You're going to have more associations occur to you, and you may have different emotional reactions to the cards over time as you get to know your deck. And I have to tell you, as a professional reader, and as one who's been reading tarot for over 40 years now, this is going to change. It's going to change for you. It still changes for me. Okay, that's normal. It's all part of our growth, and it's all part of our evolving worldview and how we respond to color and, the stances of the human body and that sort of thing. But this is how you can quickly get to know any tarot deck and how you can begin to develop your own intuitive interpretations of the cards so that you never have to depend upon another tarot book again in your life. I can't even remember the last time I read a tarot book. To be honest with you, I really can't. So there you go. Let me know what you thought of this video. If you're interested in going more in depth about this, again, subscribe to my free newsletter on Substack. It appears on the screen here every so often. It is going to remain free indefinitely. I will eventually have paid lessons over there. So if you want to go deeper into learning tarot from me, be sure to sign up for my newsletter so you are made aware of when those lessons become available. All right. So that's it for today. I thank you all for watching. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel if you're not already subscribed. And if you are, thank you and bless you. I appreciate your support so very, very much. As always, in the first comment pinned, there is a link for a 5 to a 7 card reading if you'd like a reading from me. And also the link to my free newsletter is repeated there. These links are also always in the description. Deck I use in the video is linked in the description if you'd like to order it off of Amazon. That is my affiliate link, and I receive a 1% to a 4.5% commission on each sale, depending. And I would appreciate your support on that very much as well. So that's it for today. I am Nefer Kefri. I am wishing you all a very blessed day ahead.